Hello everyone, welcome back to the series of video lecture on English for Skill Enhancement. I am Arif Ahammed. I teach English at Department of SNH, MLR Institute of Technology. Today I will be talking about abbreviation in English. So the main topic is abbreviation, which is very simple and very short also, so it don't take much time. So let's see what are the parts of today's lecture. First, I'll be talking about the definition of abbreviation, what is an abbreviation, then why are they used, why we actually need to use abbreviation in certain cases, and then I'll be talking about types of abbreviation with definitions and example. There are few types of, different types of abbreviations. I'll be talking about them with example, and we will also talk about how to use them, okay, or where to use them basically. See, what is an abbreviation? So abbreviation, you all know, abbreviation means something which is shortened, right? So an abbreviation is a shortened form of a word. When we make a word short, that is called abbreviation in a very simple manner. Now, basically we do it to save time as well as space, right? For example, you can see UN. Instead of saying United Nation, we use the abbreviated form, that is UN, E.G. That is, for example, actually it's from original. Now you might get confused, E and G, it's not matching with the first letter. Actually, it's from a Latin phrase, exempli gratia, right? So E and G, that means for example. The translation means for example only. So these are the examples. Now, why it is used, why abbreviation is required, or we need to use them in certain cases. Makes writing and speaking faster and concise. If we want to make our writing or speaking faster, then what happens? We can use like abbreviation. Then the next is space. They save space. Obviously, if we use abbreviation, what will happen? We might be able to save a lot of space, especially if you have seen Twitter, right? What happened? Twitter used to have that word limit, character limit, 60 or 40 words, and all you can post. One post can contain maximum 40 to 60 or 160 something characters only. So in those kind of situations, abbreviation help us to actually use more words, right? Because instead of using 4 or 5 letters in abbreviation, we'll be using only 1-2 letters, right? So obviously the number of letters will decrease. Clarity also. In certain cases, they can clarify or standardize the information. They can make an information more standard, or they can enhance the clarity, especially in academic degrees. For example, PhD. Now this is an abbreviated form, PhD. But if we use the original, like the complete word, philosophy, doctors of philosophy, we might not understand what does it mean. The abbreviated form has now become more popular, right? And people easily understand it. So that's why sometime, as I said, the usage of abbreviation actually adds clarity. Fine. So next I'll be talking about, let's see, types of abbreviation. What are the different types of abbreviation? There are quite a few types of abbreviation. These two, clippings and contraction, we are not dealing with these two things here in 4th unit abbreviation topic. That is something different. These two things we have already dealt with in unit 1, word formation process. Fine. So I'll be basically talking about 4 types of abbreviation, that is initialism, acronyms, abbreviations with periods, which is most traditional abbreviation, and then symbols and alphanumeric abbreviation. Right? So let's see, what is initialism? What is initialism? It is an abbreviation consisting of the first letter of a group of words where each letter is pronounced separately. When we use the first letter of a group of words, and we pronounce that each of the letters separately. See the example, UN. I am not saying un. I am not pronouncing it as one single word. I am pronouncing these 2 letters U and N separately. So this is an example of initialism. USA, again. I am not saying USA. I am saying USA, right? Each letter I am pronouncing separately. This is also an example of initialism. BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, ATM, Automated Teller Machine. These are all examples of initialism. So one thing you need to remember here, each letter is spoken individually. U and N, for example. Fine. That is one thing you need to remember. So this is one kind of abbreviation that we find in English. Then what is the next type? Acronym. What is acronym? Acronym also is a kind of abbreviation, but there is a difference. If you compare it with initialism, in acronym you don't pronounce each letter separately. You don't say NASA. Instead of it, we say what? NASA. We pronounce it as one single word. We don't pronounce each letter separately. Scuba, radar. So you see here, what we are doing, we are not pronouncing each letter separately. Instead, we are pronouncing the entire, like all the letters together as one single word. So that is called acronym. Fine. A few examples were given already here. Now, let's see abbreviation with period. This is the most traditional kind of abbreviation you will find in English. So, abbreviation using periods to indicate omission of letters. So, simply a big phrase would be abbreviated, would be shortened, and we would be using the letter, and in between what will happen? Dot, full stop would be there. So, you can see easy, exemplary, gratia. For example, instead of saying for example, we use easy, E-N-G, and then I.E. That is called idest. It's a Latin phrase which originally translates to that is. So instead of that is, we use this particular abbreviation, etc., etc., and so on. Instead of using so on, we use etc. Then with title, Mr., Doctor, Saint. Here also with dot, what we are doing, we are using the abbreviated form also. So this actually dot indicates the omitted thing. There is something which is omitted. This is the shortened form. Fine. These are all examples. This is, you will find most of the abbreviation like that in English. Fine. Next one. Symbols and alphanumeric abbreviations also would be there. So sometime what will happen? We'll be using, instead of dot, we'll be using symbol, or we can sometimes use numerics also. So for example, P and L, instead of using this particular phrase profit and loss, we use P and then this symbol and L. Similarly 4G, 5G, this is alphanumeric, right? R&D, research and development, this is symbols. This is numeric. So these are also one kind of abbreviations which we see in English. Right? Now, rules for using abbreviation. There are certain things that we need to keep in our mind while using abbreviation. First, we need to know our audience. Use abbreviations only if the reader is familiar with them. So let's say if a reader or someone who is listening to you is not aware of the meaning of the abbreviation, the full form of the abbreviation, he or she won't get the meaning. So that's why it's important to understand the audience and to check whether they know the full form of the abbreviation or not. And then only we should use them. Define once. When you are using abbreviation in a long speech or long writing, the first time you need to introduce it. What is the full form? Now, for example, artificial intelligence. Let's say you are writing an essay. So you are using this particular word, artificial intelligence. Do not use AI directly. When first time you are using the word artificial intelligence, you write it completely, artificial intelligence, and within bracket you introduce the abbreviated form, AI. Then from next sentences, if you are using artificial intelligence, instead of again spelling out artificial intelligence, you just use the abbreviated form AI, because you have already introduced it. So that is one thing you need to remember. Use constantly. Once introduced, use the abbreviation throughout the document. So it's not like once you will introduce and then 2-3 sentences you will use the abbreviated form, and again 5th sentence you will use the complete, like the normal form artificial intelligence. No. Once after introducing it for the first time, all the instances, later instances, you have to use AI only. So using consistently is very important. You need to maintain that consistency. Fine. Now avoid overuse. Too many abbreviations can confuse the reader. So if you are speaking or if you are writing, make sure that you are not using too many of abbreviations, especially if the abbreviations are not familiar also. Like there are certain abbreviation that almost everyone knows. They have become very familiar because of they are being used everywhere, every places, right? So no problem with them. But there are certain abbreviations which are not that familiar. People are not familiar with them. We don't use them in our public discourse very frequently. So better to not to use those abbreviations in an excessive manner, only when required. Right? So these are certain things that we need to keep in our mind while using or while dealing with abbreviation. Fine. Next, few example I have added here. just few example. Once again, it's same like redundancies. There are many examples of redundancies and cliches. Similarly, abbreviations also are there. Many abbreviations. It's not technically possible for me to talk about all those abbreviations. I just have added few sample example. You can easily find them in internet. Just prepare a list or download a list of abbreviation, especially from your field, like technical field, engineering, and then you have to remember them. What are their full form? There is no other way. Fine. So just few example. You can see CAD. It actually stands for computer aided design, and it is mainly used in mechanical or civil engineering field. IC, for example, integrated circuit. It is used in electronic and electrical field, right? You can see these type of examples also. CPU, central processing unit. It's computer science, related to computer science. LCD, liquid crystal display. It is also again related to electronics or physics. Laser, light amplification by simulated emission of radiation. IR, infrared. All these are examples of from field of physics, basic science. So these are the examples of abbreviation. Please remember that when it comes to exam, they can give you or they can ask any abbreviation, right? So it's always better to prepare an enhanced list, an exhaustive list of abbreviation, especially the abbreviation that are being used in the field of engineering, technology, and science, and then remember them. Simply remember the full form of them. Fine. Thing that we got to know from today's lecture. Just I'll go back to the last slide and see what are the things that we got to know from today's lecture. The first thing, obviously, we got to know about what is abbreviation, the definition of abbreviation. That is one important thing that we got to learn. And then purpose of their usage, why we need abbreviation or why we need to use abbreviation in certain cases, that we got to know. And then we got to know about their types and examples, and then usage process, like how to use them or where to use them. That also we got to know about abbreviation. Fine. So I hope it's clear now. Thank you everyone for being with me. I'll meet with all of you again in the next lecture with a different topic, obviously. Thank you everyone.